Hey guys, Gypsy Trails here.
Today we're filming our New Hampshire 48 final reflection to share our experiences, things we learned, and also maybe things we would have done differently during our experience. So let's get into it.
Very good. One of our favorite hikes that we did during the course of our 48 was the Tripyramid Slide. Just the climbing and the rock scrambling, and looking back, and there's just a crazy view no matter which way you turned. And that was one of the hikes that really stood out to us.
The second favorite hike of ours is Franconia Ridge. This was actually the second hike within the White Mountain Range that we did, and we hiked it on Halloween, and it was just such an amazing experience. It was our first true snow hike and was much more special than spending Halloween at a party or something. It was absolutely exquisite.
Another hike that really stood out to us was our Whiteface Passaconaway hike. The Whiteface portion of it, it was our first and only time seeing undercast. The trail we took was the Blueberry Ledge Trail, and that is on the Terrifying 25, and it also made for a really fun experience, the hiking that day.
First on the list was Mount Garfield. We had been monitoring the weather, but it changed last minute into a blizzard, and we weren't really prepared for this. We were driving in really scary conditions, and we still ended up hiking that day. Basically, our down coats were soaked. We weren't wearing shells. We didn't have snowshoes at this point. It was just a really dangerous decision. Thankfully, it wasn't really an exposed type of ridge hike on Garfield, but really wasn't a smart decision on our part, and we learned a lot that day.
Another really scary moment we had on trail was, ironically, after we had completed the Presidential Traverse, we were on our way down Madison, and the trail just completely vanished. So we had to bushwhack for probably about 30 minutes in the pitch black. We were falling into the creek. In the end, we were fine, but in those moments, it did get pretty scary. So.
Our third scariest hike was on Mount Isolation in peak snowmelt season, which from the bat was already a really bad plan. But we also didn't know about the winter bushwhack, and we took the Rocky Branch Trail the whole way. So consequently, we were hiking on a river the whole way, essentially, and we had to cross over many dangerous snow bridges. We ended up finishing that hike around 7, 8 o'clock at night. There were several times where we got lost as well because Rocky Branch is not well traveled in the snowmelt season.
Now, for people just starting the 48 and want to know of hikes that they should probably avoid, hikes that are a lot harder and more strenuous, there are a couple hikes, the first of them being the Presidential Traverse. Now, we ended with the Presidential Traverse for a good reason, because it is the toughest hike, I would say, in the Whites. It had almost 9,000 feet of elevation gain between 2 days, and it covered 7 major summits, I think about 11 altogether. It was just in length of time and elevation and just the sheer ruggedness of the Presidential Ridgeline made for one of the most stunning, iconic, and just truly incredible hikes we've ever done. But it is definitely top of the list in hardest hikes that we've done in the Whites.
Our second most difficult hike in the Whites was the Carters, North, Middle, and South Carter. We ended up hiking them in February in like -3 degrees. It was the coldest hike we've done, and our bladder hoses, our nozzles kept freezing, and my eyelashes froze. My nose drips froze. We had a lot of crazy pictures. Evan's beard had ice on it. So that was just really challenging, where you had to constantly be moving. And even if you'd stop for a couple minutes to eat, you'd get cold instantly again.
Mm-hmm.
We also didn't have snowshoes at this point. So we were in some areas like waist deep, blazing through snow. We also ended in the dark because it's just a very long hike to tackle all at once, but it makes the most sense to do all together.
Mm-hmm. Another one that really stood out was Twins Galehead. Now, originally we were going to do Twins Galehead, Zealand, and Hale all together, just to kind of knock them all out at once, but it was wintertime as well. Off the bat is really tough in the wintertime because of road closures, so you have to find a way to get to the trail. So this hike was one of the steepest we've ever experienced. We ascended about 1,100 feet in elevation in 0.7 of a mile. We actually didn't even end up hiking Zealand or Hale that day because that ascent up South Twin just completely destroyed us.
And the fourth hike that was very difficult to us was Franconia Ridge. Normally, you could handle this midway through your 48 really easily, but this was the second hike of the 48 that we decided to tackle. So we didn't really have our hiking legs yet, and we went up Lafayette and down Falling Waters. And typically people do it the other way around. Falling Waters is pretty steep, and it was also icy in sections, very wet trail. So this is one that just really had me feeling crushed at the end of the hike, but it was absolutely exquisite. I would just save this one for maybe your mid-48 experience.
Now for those just starting out and maybe you don't really have your trail legs just yet, we have a couple hiking options that we found to be pretty easy. The first one on the list, and I think a lot of people can agree with this one, Mount Tecumseh. It just barely makes the 4,000 footer list at 4,003 feet. So there was the parking situation. Depending on the time of year, you're parking at a ski resort. So it could either be pretty busy or no people at all, depending on the time of year. We did it in the wintertime, so parking was a little bit challenging, but other than that, we finished the entire hike in about 3 hours. So that one was it just flew right by. It was super easy.
Next on our list is Mount Hale. Now, Hale may not offer spectacular views, but there are a lot of gorgeous rivers going up to the trail. It's about 4 miles in total out and back, so it is very manageable. However, I would not recommend tackling Hale in the wintertime, as road closures are a problem. Zealand Road is closed for all winter into early spring as well, so that would add an additional 5 miles to the hike. So if you want to tackle Hale, definitely aim for the summertime, and it'll be a pretty easy hike for you.
Another one that would be really good for someone starting out would be Mount Waumbek. The summit itself is wooded, but on the way to Waumbek, you actually hike up Mount Star King, which is on the 52 with a view list, and you get to see the iconic Star King fireplace, which is really cool. Star King has a pretty nice view because it's on the 52 list, so it just really makes that hike really worth it.
Now, if you really want to soak in those presidential views early on, there is an option for you. Mount Pierce is pretty manageable going up Crawford Path. It is a steep hike, but it's pretty short, therefore it's over early. You can do Pierce out and back, and it offers spectacular views at the top. So If you really want to take your friends and enjoy the Prezi views, definitely try out Pierce. Here's what we learned on our 48 journey. First of all is how to hike year-round. Now, we initially started hiking in the winter, which ended up being a pro and a con for us. It really did push us to learn how to use winter gear, get snowshoes, snow guards, poles, and how to use all that equipment correctly and take care of it. So that was really good for us.
One thing that you always have to do is research the trail, reach out to people if you have any questions. There's a lot of support groups out there, whether it be the Facebook group for the New Hampshire 48 page, there's All Trails, the app. There are a lot of different ways you can better prepare yourself for the trail and making sure you're getting in and out safely.
The final thing we learned was how close-knit the hiking community is in the White Mountains. Everyone's really looking out for you, and you are for them as well. And you're never truly alone in the White Mountains, and you can always take comfort from that.
Lastly, we found that we greatly benefited from keeping up our momentum and hiking pretty much every weekend. If this is something you really want to do and you're really passionate about, then do it as often as you can. Get out there and try to have as many experiences as you can. It's free, it's the perfect way to be active, and we just found it was really, really good for us, and we wouldn't have changed that for the world.
Here are some things that we would have done differently on our 48 experience. The first of those being buying snowshoes almost immediately as fall season hits. We waited until basically midwinter to commit to buying snowshoes, and as Evan said, if you're really passionate about hiking and enjoying the White Mountains, you need to absolutely commit and invest in snowshoes. You will not regret it. Do not be an idiot like we were and wait until late in the season to purchase them. We also had a really difficult time finding snowshoes online, partly because of the pandemic, but also they tend to sell out as the winter season progresses. So I cannot stress the importance of committing and purchasing snowshoes early on.
One thing that we didn't really realize coming into this was snowmelt season, and that runs generally from late March through mid to late May in some cases. It can get pretty treacherous. The conditions change from day to day, so even if you're looking up on some websites and people are saying one thing, it could be very different the next day. You just don't know. And that's the time where a lot of people kind of take a break for those, month or two. We didn't. So we learned the hard way a couple times, especially on isolation. So close.
So close.
Yet so far. So moist on my feet. And there was a few other hikes that we really could have avoided and probably should have, but that's something that you really have to take into account when you're planning a hike in that time frame.
The third thing we would have done differently was probably hiking the Presidential Traverse in one day opposed to two. Now, we planned a 2-day to make it a little bit easier on ourselves, but in return, I think this made it more difficult because we had very heavy overnight packs with our sleeping gear. We only tackled about 5 miles our first day and basically hiked the entire traverse on a single Sunday. And I think we could have cruised through all of those miles in elevation gain if we had lighter packs. So I think we did this in a really silly way, but it was a really good learning experience for us.
One thing that we learned was that we really liked to document our hikes. So we had kind of like a visual journal to look back on, and that's partly why we have this channel in the first place. So we strongly recommend, again, if this is something you're really passionate about, keep a journal or some type of diary, notebook or whatever, or take videos. Just keep track of your experiences so you have something you can look back on. Trust us, you won't regret it.
Overall, we messed up quite a few times on our original 48, but we wouldn't change any of our experiences for the world.
Thanks for watching, guys. We really hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. We hope that we can help you all to just get out there and live your best life and really enjoy yourself and do it safely. Our goal is that so everyone out there has as good of an experience as we have out there in the Whites. Get out there and do what you love to do. So that's all for us today. We hope you guys catch us next time, and we hope to see you out there.
Happy trails!
Happy trails. Shut up. Why are you doing this now?
Well, there you go.